everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and today we are predicting, breaking down, going through it all about Louisiana Tech, Nebraska this weekend. It's an interesting one. Obviously, a QB debate in the air with a lot of questions heading into this game, and a really interesting Louisiana Tech team coming into town with Smoke Harris and company, so it's going to be a fun one. Caleb, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Again, we're 1-0. Going to have another home game this weekend. But also, right after we posted our last video, we had terrible news come out of the press conference. Everybody is probably aware at this point, but if you're not, Gabe Ervin is out for the rest of the year, as well as Dwight Boodle and Ramir Johnson. So a huge hit to our running back lineup. And yeah, that stinks. Gabe was having such a good year. Bro, he was looking so good. Ramir was looking good.
Dude, it sucks Dwight so bad. Well. I mean, we literally were getting so pumped about the usage of Gabe Ervin in the passing game last week. And obviously, Ramir has always been a reliable player for us. And so the excitement about the running back room was real. And then heading into this rest of the season, the Big Ten play, right when Gabe was starting to look good. I mean, after the first 2 weeks, he was the highest graded running back in regard to elusive rating on PFF. The energy was there, the excitement was there, the production was there. It just blows so bad, man. Another season-ending injury for Gabe. For Dwight Boodle, it's not as bad. I mean, inherently, you know, he's a freshman, so I mean, it sucks, but like he'll redshirt and he'll be back. But yeah, it just blows so bad. Obviously, this puts a lot of pressure on Anthony Grant now to be the guy, and we have to have dudes step up immediately like Emmett Johnson.
I just thought it was a stinger when I saw it. The way he was talking at the press conference, he just really had no clue. But yeah, that stinks. I mean, quick recovery to them all, and hopefully he can get back out on the field soon.
Basically, the position went from our deepest position to now one of our least deep positions, because I mean, you got Emmett Johnson, and your next step is probably true freshman Quentin Irvs, and then after that it's like walk-ons. So we're suddenly really thin there if Grant goes down. Emmett Johnson was promising as a prospect, but we haven't seen much of him in the spring game. He looked fairly average, not that explosive. So we're hoping that he's developed since. I mean, we've seen guys develop since the spring game. So let's hope that's happened with Emmett Johnson as well. When it comes to the quarterback battle, obviously, before we get into the game and X factors and everything else, it's Sims and Haarberg are listed as co-starters on the depth chart. We're recording this before any additional press conferences this week, so we don't know for sure at this point whether or not Sims or Haarberg's starting. So where do you lean right now at this point with who's going to start in this game?
Yeah, it's interesting just listen to them talk about, Sims' ankle injury and, the test that they're trying to run. Satterfield, kind of said that he was okay. And then before Rule said that, they're still trying to get him back to full strength. So I think the ankle injury might make me lean at this time a little bit more toward Haarberg, because it is a game where, this isn't that serious of a game. So, and that Haarberg can win. So maybe they just give it another week, let Haarberg go again. Bro. That's kind of, I would say, guess that's my thought.
There ain't no way in hell you're starting Sims against Michigan after not playing for 2 weeks, right?
I think they would. I legit think they would just put him out there against Michigan. Enjoy yourself. Welcome to the Big Ten. I know. So that's just a tough spot. If they did want to roll out Sims to see if if he was the starter material, you would wish you could kind of get this like opponent comparison where both of them get some series to, again, for another live tryout. Again, I think against Louisiana Tech, there is some luxury there in doing that where,
for sure,
we can have a Sims mistake and still win. We can have a Haarberg's mistake and still win.
If Haarberg plays, then I think you have to start Haarberg versus Michigan. And then at this point, it's his team. It's his job to lose. I mean, assuming he plays well.
That would be like he did against Northern Illinois.
If they start Sims after that, bro, Husker Nation's going to lose their minds. We'll see. We'll see.
After 2 wins.
So we'll talk more about that in the X Factors for sure. So with that said, we can head into the actual breakdown here a little bit and talk about Louisiana Tech. So right now with the game, it's a 19.5 point spread, which is surprisingly large. I mean, that's a pretty big spread. 47.5 point over under right now. I mean, that's kind of like a point spread of like 34-14 or something like that. So that's pretty significant overall. Pretty confident in Nebraska right now. Now this is LA. This is LA Tech's 5th game actually, because they played on week 0. So they're currently 2-2 with a win against FIU, a loss on the road at SMU, and then a wild one versus Northwestern State 51-20, and then they lost to North Texas 40-37. So it's been a roller coaster for them. And it gets interesting. So on the offensive side right now, they're a traditional spread team, and they've got some interesting playmakers and a really interesting, I would say, system in how they develop this with an RPO offense around Hank Bachmeier and, of course, Smoke Harris. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, they have really been a second half team as we've been watching these games. They take a while to figure it out, and then in the first half, they've given up a lot of points, a lot of big plays, and then they've had some good comeback wins against FIU. They make some good adjustments in the second half. But yeah, Smoke Harris is definitely the star of the show, no doubt for them. In the run and the catch game, he is very fast. He's bulky. He's kind of
he's a little chunky, man.
He has to be, because he's like 5'6", but he's hard to tackle. I mean, every time you watch, it's like the dude is just, guys are falling off him left and right. I'm excited to see how our tackling stacks up against him. Coach Comey for Louisiana Tech said that they're just going to try and get him easy touches, get him, the playmaker, find our advantages, trying to really get ball exposure and those strengths. And then they also want to throw the ball vertically downfield as well. So again, Smoke Harris has really looked like the offense in a lot of ways for Louisiana Tech.
Yeah.
And so,
he's a leading receiver right now. He has 24 receptions for 288 yards, averaging about 12 per catch and 3 touchdowns. They definitely dial it up for him as much as possible. I mean, with the traditional RPO offense, how it works is you basically either you're going to hand it off, but you're reading one route. So you're basically hyper targeting one player on that route to essentially decide whether or not you're going to throw the ball. And so that's where the offense really tries to thrive, because they really struggled outside of the RPO game. Bachmeier is really good inside of the structure of RPO, but once you lose that structure, suddenly when he has to make reads and make decisions, it hasn't been nearly as pretty, and he's definitely made some mistakes. And so that's where, we'll talk about that in the X Factors, but that's where an opportunity is going to be for Nebraska in this game. I mean, right now, Bachmeier, he is 70 for 106, so 66% completion percentage, 756 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. So he's played well on paper right now. One of pretty middle of the pack graded quarterback, 65th graded PFF through 4 games. He really come off as a fairly one-dimensional team. Right now they average about 3.6 yards per rush, so 81st in the country. I mean, what did you see in the rush game from them? Basically, it was just a few big plays.
Yeah, it was. That makes it even worse, because even when you were looking at the FIU or SMU games, it was either a big run or that they were just getting smoked at the line of scrimmage. And they do seem just like a feast or famine team in general. They have a lot of big plays,
right?
But kind of the consistency of driving the ball up the field, it was really hit or miss a lot of those games. I think part of that, like you said, goes to Bachmeier for he looks nice when the pocket's clean for him and he has time to set up and throw. He made some nice down the field throws across the middle and had a good arm. But yeah, just kind of if people were getting pressure, which, against, again, when they're playing a better team like an SMU or, even a North Texas, it could be a little bit more of a struggle.
Because in the North Texas game, they actually ran the ball pretty well, like 500 or 215 yards on the ground. Tyree Shelton had 16 carries for 152 yards and averaged over 9 a carry. He had a 56-yard run in there, so that obviously helps. But yeah, like in the FIU game, they had like 130-yard run, and they still averaged like 2.9 a carry after the 30-yard run, and it was a struggle out there. So, right now, I think their offense kind of crawls along at times, and it's really inconsistent. And there were moments where they looked definitely bad, to say the least. So there's opportunity here. They basically just try to hyper-focus the ball to Smoke's hands, and if it's not working, they don't have very many other answers. And the offense, to me, isn't as threatening as it looks on paper with how many points they've put up in some of these games.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with some of the opponents as well that they've played. They're not a bad offense, and again, they have enough playmakers where they can give you problems. They also have like a 6'3" wide receiver as well who made a couple nice contested catches.
Yeah. Well, on the defensive side, what are your thoughts here about this defense? I mean, what are you seeing?
They were not able to really get to pressure the quarterback a lot. They're 111th according to PFF in sack percentage, and they're fast, but I feel like they're undersized, but they hit well. But again, they've given up a lot of yards to a lot of the teams that they've played. It's shown that there is plenty of room for tons of yards against this defense.
Yeah, I mean, basically there's like a traditional 4-3. They play a lot of nickel. They're like pretty fast, but not extremely physical for the most part. Like I thought they tackled fairly well and they kept the game in front of them. But there's also times like in the North Texas game where it becomes an absolute shootout and they can't get a stop. I mean, they gave up 562 yards to North Texas in that game. And in the previous games, their secondary was looking pretty like respectable, and they made a lot of great plays on the ball and did a good job of not giving up too many huge plays. Like right now they're 33rd in yards per pass at 6.1 yards per pass for opponents and 26 in opponent completion percentage. So they do a good job of making it difficult on you. At the same time, there's times where they just get gashed for huge plays, and there's definitely opportunity in this game for big plays down the field and runs towards the outside, especially physical running against a team like this is, I think, going to be pretty effective.
Yeah, their defensive line just seemed a little bit undersized in comparison to some of those other bigger teams that they're playing, and they're giving up 5.4 yards per rush on the season, which is 118th in the country. And obviously for a team like us, where running is our bread and butter, that gets us really excited as Nebraska fans, again, when we have quarterbacks that are dual threat. And then Anthony Grant is still a good running back for us. He's still done plenty of good things for us this last season. He started, and he's had plenty of good rushing games. And he'll have a chance here to step up, keep a lot of points of contact on the ball. And Emmett Johnson, this is a great opportunity for him as well to, kind of get a warm up against not as great of a run defense, especially because we're going to see some great ones in the Big Ten, especially next week against Michigan after.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think overall, with that said, we can head into the X factors here and talk about some of the things. I mean, first off the rip, what I got to talk about is Hank Bachmeier and his ability while under pressure, or lack of ability while under pressure, specifically when blitz. Well, it's interesting more. I think it almost more reflects on the offensive line and how their offense plays than anything. So again, in this RPO type offense, inherently, you're not very often throwing the ball while under pressure because it's basically just, well, if the route's open, you throw it. The ball usually gets out of his hand really quickly. So when this offense starts to stall is when you play press on these guys and you don't give them clean reads off the line of scrimmage. And suddenly then he has to hand the ball off over and over and over, and the RPO is not creating the pass plays they want it to create. To me, that really shows is that when teams play man, which they play man, when do you play man? You play man when you're blitzing. And right now, he's 117th of 120th graded out of 120 graded when blitzed. Where when he's not blitzed, he's the 28th graded quarterback on PFF. I mean, good news. We like to blitz. Tony White wants to blitz. And this is a game where blitzing is going to work and going to be effective. And we're one of the better teams in the country when it comes to blitzing. So inevitably, it's probably our best matchup we have in this game. And I think we can really let Tony White do his thing in this game and send pressure, play a lot of man-to-man, which is a strength of our secondary, and go out and make plays.
With the blitzing, like keeping it more toward the linebackers, a couple times when it was cornerback blitzer, kind of something to throw him off, that he read those really well and got it to those guys pretty effectively.
Yeah, so he attacked the blitzes fairly well.
Yeah, so again, keeping it, to those guys inside of the box. It's exciting for Tony White because he gets to play exactly how he wants, which is super aggressive, and I think our defense will absolutely eat, especially against this offensive line.
Oh, for sure. So, I mean, obviously the next X factor then on the defensive side is just when it comes to Smoke Harris and containing what he can do. Inevitably, they're going to be hyper-targeting him. They're going to be drawing up plays, screen passes, dump-offs, whatever it is to get the ball in his hands. And so our linebackers have had a hit or miss. I mean, much better this season when it comes to tackling in space and getting to the edge. And we've seen the safeties, and the 3-3-5 has helped a lot there, where we've seen Deshaun Singleton come up and make plays, Isaac Gifford come up and make plays. And so inevitably, I think we're in a pretty good position. We match up well against this offense to really lock them down. So for me, it kind of comes down to more how our offense is going to perform. So what do you feel like the biggest X factor is for our offense in this game? I mean, obviously it comes down to who's playing at quarterback, but like, what are your thoughts there? How we execute this game? What are the keys to us executing?
Again, I think it's all in the rush game. But as we saw this last game too, like when we went into those bigger sets, people stacked the box and really tried to get to us. They know that we want to run. So it's how are we going to keep them honest? How are we going to keep being creative? So I want to keep seeing that from Marcus Satterfield on, again, ways to keep them off us, because we're going to be able to rush the ball, but we need to keep them honest.
We desperately need to see Billy Kemp emerge here in a game like this and start seeing him develop and really become a playmaker.
Some wide receiver.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like there's not too many options. I mean, whether it's Malachi and he started getting a few more snaps last game, or it's someone else, I mean, we need to start seeing that step up, especially heading into Big Ten play here, because we need bodies out there that can make plays and create their own yardage. I mean, I am looking to see as a trend as well with the offensive line, where they played a pretty good game against Northern Illinois. So can you stack back-to-back good games,
right?
Which we haven't really seen ever happen, especially in the passing game.
I think that's exactly the next step for our defense, is just to continue to stay consistent. That was their hope for last game, and we saw it against a bad team. So yeah, exactly. Can we do it again? Can we not look ahead? Can we continue to just that's the difference between Nebraska in the past, like, you know, in the Bo Pelini era, or even any of these eras. It's the lack of consistency where we could be Jekyll and Hyde. So again, to see this next step on this program building is, can we consistently, week in, week out, be ready to play and be the same no matter what is going against us? I think our defense is really capable of doing this. I think we have enough talent. I think we have the right scheme, and I think that we're going to wake up ready to go. So I'm excited for this, and I think our defense is going to do good. Although I do think this is a better offense than Northern Illinois that has a little bit more weapons. Yeah. So it will be a bigger challenge.
So with that said, what is your prediction for this game? We're at what? It's a 19.5 point spread, 47.5 point over under. So keep that in mind.
I don't think that they are going to be able to get the big play. They kind of, again, they live off the big play. And I think our defense keeps everything so ahead of them, and you really have to earn it. So I think it's just going to be hard for them to drive the ball. With that said, I still think they get 10 points. And I think our offense makes a mistake. So I think there's more points than last time. And I still think our offense, again, is going to be good. If it's two quarterbacks, that could be hard to get in a rhythm, and I could see us scoring less points. But if it's just one of the quarterbacks, probably Haarberg, I could see us still getting over 30 points because our defense is going to make plays. So I'm gonna go 32-13. Nebraska win.
32-13. So you're technically taking the.
I'm taking Nebraska.
You're picking you're picking La Tech and the points.
Okay, sure. Yes. I'll pick La Tech in the points.
Interesting. So, I mean, I was kind of in the same boat where I feel like this is a game where La Tech will kind of linger a little bit longer than we want them to. I think the defense matches up well. I'm really hyped about the potential here in this game. It'll be interesting to see how we play against some of this RPO, and we already are pretty well practiced for it again after playing against Minnesota already. With that said, I mean, basically the question mark just comes down to the offense and whether or not we can replace the production, and we can keep the momentum flowing from the second half last week against Northern Illinois. If it's Jeff Sims, I'm really interested to see how he plays. I don't know how good the offense would be with Jeff Sims and without Gabe Ervin and Anthony Grant, and Ramir Johnson. So those are all question marks for me, and it makes it a little bit tougher for me to predict a confident win. So yeah, I'm going to go a little bit on the under. I'm actually going to pick fairly close to you, but I am going to go 28-10. So I'm picking technically the points again here with Louisiana Tech at 18 point spread, even though our defense, I think, are going to give us opportunities to. The offense, I would assume, is going to have some struggles staying consistent in this game against a team that tries to keep the ball in front of them. So that's overall where I'm at with it. So with that said, drop your comments down below. We want to see where you guys are at, of course, and get your predictions in. What's your biggest X factor for this game? And of course, the score. We want to see it. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Big Red Homestead, and guys, we'll see you next time.
Go Big Red,
baby.